Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to install macOS Ventura on any Windows laptop. Now this works either you're using an Intel or AMD laptop. Now here are the requirements. First, we need macOS Ventura Installer File, we need Balena Etcher, we need Opencore EFI configuration file, we need ProperTree, we need Explorer++, we need Gen SMBIOS, we need MiniTool Partition wizard, and we need Opencore Configurator. We also need a 32 gig flash drive, which we are going to use to create a bootable disk. I'll provide the links to each and every one of these tools in the video description so you can download yourself. Next, we have to check the processor we are using, so hold Ctrl+Shift+Escape to open Task Manager and then go to Performance. Under Performance, click on CPU and you should find your processor name right there. In my case, I am using a Core i3-8130, which means this is an 8th gen processor. So I'm going to download Opencore EFI for Coffee Lake, since 8th gen processors are called Coffee Lake. Now check the code name for your system based on your processor. For those using AMD, you don't have to be worried about this, as all AMD laptops are using the same EFI. Now let's close this and head to our browser so we can download our required files. Now the first thing we're going to download is macOS Ventura Installer File. I'm going to provide this link to MediaFire in the video description. This file is about 14 gigabytes, so you know what to expect. Let's download. I already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to cancel. Next, we are going to download Balena Etcher, so let's search for Balena Etcher. Click on the first link to balena.io. Now click on download Etcher. And then you can see Etcher for Windows, which is what we're using. So click on download and it should start downloading. Next, we are going to download ProperTree, so just search for ProperTree and you should see the first link to GitHub ProperTree. Let's click on it. Now click on code and then download zip and it should start downloading. Next, we are going to download Explorer++, so let's search for it. The first link to explorer++.com. Now click on download 64 bits and it should start downloading. Next, we're going to download Gen SMBIOS, which is what we're going to use to generate a unique serial for our machine. Let's click on code and then download zip. Next, we're also going to download MiniTool Partition wizard, so let's search for that. And then click on the first link as well. Click on download partition wizard at the top right corner, you can see there, up there, and then we can download the free edition. And we also have to download our Opencore Configurator, so search for eTechBox Opencore Configurator and then click on the link right there, download Opencore Configurator from eTechBox, and you can see the download button, so just click on download and it should start downloading. Now the last thing we need to download is our Opencore EFI configuration file. Now I'm going to provide this link in the video description so you can head directly to this page. Now you can see EFI for desktop. This is EFI Opencore for desktop and this is EFI for laptop. And as I am using an 8th gen processor, I'm going to download laptop Coffee Lake and Whiskey Lake 8th gen EFI. So I'm just going to click on download by the side and then I can click on download right there and it should download. Now there are 3 ways you can get EFI. Number 1, you can either build your EFI from scratch using the video I made before. I'm going to post the link in the video description. Or number 2, you can click on Custom EFI on eTechBox and then you can specify your hardware and you would get a custom EFI based on your hardware. And lastly, you could use a Prebuilt EFI from eTechBox, so whichever you prefer. You can create EFI for your system from scratch and specify all your hardware, or you can request for a custom EFI from eTechBox. And lastly, you can download a Prebuilt EFI from eTechBox as well, so whichever you prefer. After downloading everything, we can close our browser and then open our download folder. So this is Balena Etcher, this is our Opencore EFI configuration file, this is Explorer++, this is Gen SMBIOS, this is Opencore Configurator, this is ProperTree, This is MiniTool Partition Wizard, and this is our macOS Ventura installer file. Now let's run Balena Etcher. Now click on Flash from File, and then locate your download folder and select our Ventura installer file right there. So let's click on it and then open. Now click on Select Target, and then connect your flash drive, at least 32 gigabytes. So I'm just going to connect my flash drive, and then it should show there. You can see. Now let's select it, and then click on Select One, and then click on Flash, and it should start writing data to the flash drive. Now this should take around 30 minutes, but while that is running, we could work on other things. Now let's extract our EFI. Let's open it, and you should see boot, which contains our boot files, and OC, which contains our configuration files. Now let's go back to our download folder and then extract ProperTree. So that is it there. Let's extract. Now let's open ProperTree, open, and then run ProperTree Windows batch file. So just double click. Now click on File, open, and then locate your download folder. Locate our EFI folder we extracted. Open OC, and you should find config.plist, which is our configuration file right there. So select config and then open. Now it should load all our configuration files into ProperTree, and we can see ACPI, booter, device property, kernel, and the rest of them. Now let's close them and go to platform info. Now you can see system product name, which is MacBook Pro 16,4. Now we're going to generate a unique serial for MacBook Pro 16,4, which is going to remove the current serial and then use the genuine serial so we can sign into Apple services. So let's close that and then go to our download folder, extract gen SMBIOS. Now let's run gen SMBIOS Windows batch file. Now enter 1 and hit enter to update Mac serial. Hit enter to go back. Enter 2 to select our configuration file. Now let's head to our download folder. Open EFI, OC. Now drag config and drop it directly on gen SMBIOS in command prompt, and you can see the directory. Hit enter. Now enter 3 and then hit enter. Now let's enter the product name we want to generate a serial for. In my case, it is MacBook Pro 16,4. Now this is solely based on your processor, so don't just use any SMBIOS. Make sure to confirm the SMBIOS you would need based on your processor. And it has been generated, you can see right here. Now let's hit enter to go back, and then we can quit. Now let's head back to our download folder. Now under our OC folder, if we go to text, you're also going to see lots of files, and these are the drivers we need to run macOS. Now you can see I have 3 kexts for my mouse and keyboard, 3 different controllers. Now I don't really need 3 of them, and what I'm using is different from this. So let's go to device manager so we can see what we actually need. And then under my keyboard, let me just select, and you should see I'm using a PS2 keyboard, so I need a PS2 keyboard controller. And right here you can see I have a PS2 controller. Let's check the mouse as well. Now for the mouse, I'm using an Elan clickpad, so I need kext for Elan clickpad, but we don't have that here. Instead we have 2C and 2C HID. So let's go download. Now you can see under laptop input on Dotania guide, you can see lots of kext depending on the keyboard and mouse you're using. So you can see for Elan SMBIOS trackpad, we need Voodoo SMBIOS, and that is what we need to get our trackpad to work. Now I'm going to click on it and then download. Now if you use the wrong kext for your keyboard or your mouse, you won't be able to run this installation as it won't be recognized. So let's download the zip. In your case, you may not need to do this, but I tried without the keyboard and mouse text and I was unable to install, so that is why I'm doing this. Now after downloading, we can close this. Let's delete the two irrelevant kexts that we don't need so it doesn't conflict, voodoo 2c and 2chid. So let's delete it and then head to our download folder, extract SMBIOS. Now let's open the extracted folder, open text, and this file right here is what we need, smbios.text. If we open this file, you should see contents, so that's the right file, voodoo smbios.text. Let's copy and then go to our download folder, open EFI, OC, text, and then we're going to paste it there. Now after pasting it there, we have to update our configuration file. So let's go to our download folder and then open ProperTree. Let's run our ProperTree Windows batch file. Now let's click on File, Open, locate our download folder, locate our EFI folder, EFI, OC, and then Config, select. Now we are going to click on File and then OC snapshot, which is going to update our configuration file and then add the new SMBIOS trackpad we just added. Now just click on select folder. It should select the right folder automatically. And then we can save using Ctrl S. Now let's head back to our download folder. And we can delete the files we no longer need. So I'm going to delete SMBIOS, ProperTree, and most of the files we've already used. After writing data to the flash drive, you can close Balena Etcher. And then let's install MiniTool Partition wizard. Continue. Now let's continue installing using the free edition. Next. Installed. Now let's click on finish to launch. Now if we look down, you should see disk 1, disk 2, and disk 3. Disk 3 right here is our removable drive, which is our flash drive. And if you look, you should see a partition called EFI, and that is what we need. So right click on the EFI partition and then change letter. Now we can give it any letter we want so we can easily identify it. I'm going to give it X. Take note of the letter. OK. Now also right click on the unallocated space on the flash drive. We're going to make use of it and then create a new volume. Let's continue. Yes. Now you can give it a name if you want. Make sure the file system is set to NTFS. So I'm going to call it OCC. OK. And then we can click on apply down there. Yes. OK. Now let's close this. Now copy OCC, which is an Opencore Configurator. Go to this PC and you should find OCC, which is the partition we created in our flash drive. Now let's paste it there and we're going to make use of it after the installation. Head back to our download folder. Now let's extract Explorer++ so we can copy the EFI from our download folder to our flash drive. Let's open Explorer++ and then run, right click Explorer++ and run as administrator. Make sure to run as admin. And you should find EFI X, which is our EFI partition on our flash drive. Open it and delete everything inside. Now go to our download folder, open EFI, and then copy this EFI folder. Now if you open it, you should see boot and OC, so make sure you copy it correctly. And then head to this PC, find EFI X, which is our EFI partition, and then we paste it there. Now we can close Explorer++. Now one last thing we have to do is create a partition where we want to install macOS. So we should figure out where to install macOS. Now search for partition on Windows search bar and then click on create and format hard disk partitions. Now right here you should see all the hard drives in your PC. Disk 0 right here is my hard drive with 1 terabyte. Disk 1 right here is my SSD 128 gig. You can see the partitions, the C drive and the recovery partition. And this 2 right here is a removable drive. Now I can't run the installation on disk 1, and that is because I don't have sufficient space since it is just 128 gig and I'm running Windows already. So I'm going to install it on my hard drive with 1 terabyte. So just right click and I'm going to click on shrink, and then I'm going to set a certain volume I want to use for the installation, 200,000 megabytes. Shrink. Now I'm going to right click on that unallocated space around 195 gig. New simple volume. Next, 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 and then give it a name. Let's just call this macOS Ventura. Next, and then finish. Now this way you could install Windows alongside macOS and use both of them. But if you just want to install macOS, then you can wipe your drive. But if you want to install Windows and macOS, then make sure to shrink it. Now we can close disk management and then restart our PC to begin the installation. Hold escape key to open startup menu. Now we are going to BIOS setup. So we're going to press F10. It may be different depending on the system you're using. First, we are going to disable secure boot from system configuration. So we are going to go to boot options and make sure you clear all secure boot keys. So I already have it disabled right there. So you can see it's empty. Next, we're also going to disable fast boot if we have that. And then also go to security and then disable Intel Software Guard Extension, SGX. Make sure it is disabled. Now we can exit. Now we're going to hold F9 to show our boot options. It may also be different depending on the PC you're using. Now we're going to select our USB hard drive, UEFI SanDisk, which is right there, the second. Continue. First, we're going to reset NVRAM. So hit enter on reset NVRAM. And it should reboot. Now you can see a new option, Opencore. That is what we're going to select. Hit enter. Now we're going to proceed to install macOS Ventura. Now set a language for the installation and continue. Let's go to disk utility so we can erase the partition and install macOS. Continue. Now select the drive you want to install macOS. In my case, it is this macOS Ventura partition, and then click on erase. Now we can set the name to whatever we want and then set the format to APFS and then erase. Now if you get an error like this, just click on done and then erase again for the second time, and this should work. Now we can click on done and then go back, install macOS Ventura, continue. Now agree to the terms. Select our macOS Ventura partition where we want to install and then continue to begin the installation. Now this should take around an hour to install. It may restart severally while installing, but you just have to wait. Now select a language for the setup, continue, and then you can set up everything else based on your personal preference. And the setup is complete. Now you can choose your theme. You can use the dark or the light theme. You can change it later in settings. So basically, this is how to install macOS Ventura on a Windows laptop. Now if we go to about this Mac, you can see that this is showing as a MacBook Pro, and our graphics is showing the correct UHD 620 iGPU with 16 gigs of RAM, and everything else is working fine. Now one last thing, we have to move the boot files from our flash drive to our main drive. So let's open OCC on our desktop so we can copy Opencore Configurator. Now let's drag Opencore Configurator to our desktop, and then let's double click to unzip, and then let's run Opencore Configurator. Okay, now let's close this window, and if you look up there at the top right, you should see an icon for Opencore Configurator. Now let's mount the EFI partition on our main drive. You can see the device name right there, Skynix. So we're going to open partition. Now that is the EFI partition on our main drive, and if you open it, you're going to see Windows files. Also mount the EFI partition on our flash drive, which is the second, and open partition as well. So this is side by side. This is EFI partition on our flash drive, which contains our macOS files, boot and OC, which contains Opencore files. And on our main drive, this is the EFI partition, which contains Microsoft Windows. So you can just copy boot and OC from our flash drive to our main drive and then replace. This way we'll be able to boot with both Windows and Mac OS. But if you want to get rid of Windows, then you can just delete Windows and move just the boot files for Opencore. Now we can close this. Let's eject boot EFI. Now we can remove our flash drive, restart our PC, and we should be able to boot into either Windows or Mac OS. So basically, this is how to install macOS Ventura on a Windows laptop. If this video was helpful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notification. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.